my name's Laura from Laura Fisher Yoga, and this is a short video for teachasana.com on shoulder alignment. For healthy, strong and tension-free shoulders in our yoga practice, it's a good idea to understand about internal and external rotation. Our shoulders are at their safest and happiest, especially in weight-bearing poses, when they're in slight external rotation. But a lot of us come to our mat naturally internally rotating as a result of bad posture from slouching over a desk, at a car, or just generally any time you're seated. So let's have a look at what external rotation is. Take your arms out in front of you. Turn them palm face up to the ceiling, but rolling the arms right from where the head of the upper arm sits in the shoulder joint. So rolling that all up to the ceiling. That's external rotation, fully externally rotated. Internal rotation is when the shoulder starts to tip forwards, the hands would tip in. And you see that whole shoulder joint beginning to angle forwards and down, versus the external rotation when they roll back and open. So it's this sort of shape that we're looking for in our yoga poses. But very few yoga poses actually have the palms face up. So let's see how you do that with the palms down. So again, take your arms, palm face up to the ceiling, externally rotating right from the head of the shoulder. Now try and keep the upper arm in this external rotation, and from the elbow down, internally rotate. Now if you've got a nice strong movement through the shoulder, you should be able to get the palm of your hand flat down. If it's staying angled up slightly, showing that there's a difficulty already, maybe an impingement in this shoulder. So again, externally rotate the entire arm and internally rotate the forearm from the elbows down. This is actually the position we make in downward facing dog. So let's have a look at that. From all fours, bring the arms out in front of you as if in downward facing dog. Now think about externally rotating the upper arm. So they're moving away from the ears and round the back. And then internally rotate the forearm. Feels like you're really dialing the knuckle joint and the thumb joint down into the mat. Now from there, tuck the toes under and lift up and back to downward facing dog. Now it doesn't matter if you're working with straight legs or bent legs. What we're doing in the shoulders is the same. So as you hang your head, make sure you are externally rotating the upper arm so the shoulders are moving away from you, whilst internally rotating the forearm, dialing the hands back down. Now this exists here in downward facing dog, and this is a good place to play with the technique and then put it in some of the stronger yoga poses. So if we look at Chaturanga next, so coming forwards to the top of a push-up, we'll start with half Chaturanga. Take the knees down, lengthen from the knees to the crown of the head. Now again, we might be starting to go back to bad habits and internally rotating the shoulders and collapsing here. Make sure that you're externally rotating, so the arms are moving away from you and the shoulder blades down the back. Internally rotate the forearm, pushing the index finger knuckle joint down into the mat. Now keep these shoulders feeling open and down the back as the elbows come into the side waist, and you slowly lower down in one line, not collapsing at all. So let's do that again. From downward facing dog, come forwards into all fours. Shift the body forwards, making sure to externally rotate the upper arms, internal the forearms, keeping the collarbone broad and open. Elbows in, slowly lower down. That's really going to start to strengthen a lot of the muscles and ligaments that hold the shoulder together. Now you can always stay with half Chaturanga. A lot of people come on to full Chaturanga much too quickly, and that's where we see some injury and damage in the shoulders. So if you're feeling ready to come to downward facing dog straight into Chaturanga, there's an easy check to know if you're ready. Inhale, come forwards to the top of the push-up. Then before you lower, shimmy forwards a little bit so that when we do lower, our elbows are over the wrists. Then externally rotating the upper arms, shoulder blades moving down the back, internal the forearms, bend the elbows a little bit and come to a hover. If you're finding you can't hold that hover, take the knees down and spend a few more months building the strength up here in half Chaturanga. Otherwise, when you are in that full Chaturanga, the next thing is to make sure you're not lowering too far down, because again, this would bring the shoulders into internal rotation. So from downward facing dog, making sure the upper arms externally rotate, forearms internally. Come forwards to the top of your push-up. Now what you see a lot of sometimes is when people drop too low and the head of the shoulder is now pointing down to the mat. So as I come up into upward facing dog, that's putting a lot of pressure through the shoulder. So when you lower into Chaturanga, you want to make sure that you've got the same angle between the shoulder and the elbow. You're not dipping the shoulder down. So let's have a look at that again. Come forwards to the top of the push-up. Make sure for the external and internal rotation. Then pushing forwards, lower down, but no more than that. So the shoulder's not dropping below the elbows. Turn the toes over and coming into upward facing dog. Again, we could collapse the shoulders in here. That would be a weak position for them. So externally rotating the upper arms, internal the forearms as you stand on the hands. And coming back.